What's up, gamers? This is Battle Mallet Podcast, episode 45, Hexed Playing with Your Gnarlwood. For anyone that isn't familiar, the Battle Mallet Podcast is the journey of 3 to 4 busy gamers making their way to the Nova Open Convention, playing games that they love, and balancing life with those games. My name is Jared Johnson. Tonight I am joined by Trey Side.
I got no words for that title.
I'm pretty sure it was your idea.
What you talking about?
And Jason Table New Murray.
I got a splinter.
Oh, that's rough, bud. Put some salve on it or something, I guess. I don't know.
Come rub this cream on my Gnarlwood.
It'll heal. Oh, good times. Anyway, so we are super excited. So we released an episode earlier this morning covering the major rules changes. So thanks to all of the product reviewers who were able to kind of release all of the rules changes, and we were able to kick off of that and give our thoughts on the new rules changes. If you haven't listened, go back and check that out. We're excited about the rules changes. In tonight's episode, we're going to do our standard Rivals review for the 2 new warbands in Gnarlwood, the Gnarlspirit pack and the Sons of Velmorn, and we're also going to cover the 2 new Rivals decks, the Daring Delvers and Tooth and Claw. There's not a lot to catch up on as far as what we've been up to since we just released an episode this morning as of this recording. So instead, we have some big news that we teased this morning or on this morning's episode. And we are going to have a website. So not just like the podcast website or just the blog website, but an actual website. I have been laboring for many, many minutes on building this fancy website. And really, it just has 3 links. It'll have a link to the blog, a link to the podcast, and then a link to our new Nemesis deck library. And so I do want to give credit where credit is due. Jason was the one who really had this big idea to build this out. But we're huge fans of the Nemesis format. We were huge fans of it when it was still called Rivals Plus. The idea that you build a deck from your warbands cards plus one other source. It just makes playing the game easier. It's been successful in helping our local gaming community play a deeper Underworlds experience without having to get into the full deck building and buy a full season or full 4 seasons worth of cards. And we're excited about it. But I do want to kick it over to Jason. So Jason, you want to talk about what this library is going to include?
Yeah, so thank you. Thank you both for all the hard work that's gone into it. Like doing 46 warbands worth of deck building, although limited, is still a lot of work to be done. So appreciate the efforts that have gone into it. And really, like, the essence of this podcast, or the essence of Hexed, has always been the new player, to grow the community, to make sure that there is a resource for people to listen to or look up, to really support those new players or players that just want to get a little bit better, right? So when we went to build these Nemesis decks, we didn't go into the White Dwarf. Like, we wanted like ease of purchase. So we just built all our Nemesis decks using Tooth and Claw, Daring Delvers, and
Illusory Bite and Deadly Depths.
And Deadly Depths.
Yeah.
So, and Deadly Depths maybe only once. So
there are some good cards in Deadly Depths. It just doesn't have a lot to offer in the objective department. So your warband has to have really good objectives for that one to be worth using.
Yeah, it's got some good ploys and upgrades, but it's kind of hard on the upgrade front, or the objective front.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the thought behind it. Again, thank you guys for putting in the time so we can at least get it out there. And for our listeners, like, these are all, I don't want to say first run, like some of them we've gone over and looked at, but it's just to get everyone started, right? Like, if you're looking for a place to, hey, I really want to play Nemesis, or I really want to tweak this Rivals deck that I have, it's just a resource to go and look. And please share back. So get on our Discords, get on our Facebook, send us messages. If you come up with a really, really cool deck for, I don't know, like Godsworn Hunt, that's different than what we have, share it. If it's really cool, we'll talk about it on the podcast. We'll definitely like update it within the database, so there's an easy access for people to find stuff like that. So it's really like, going forward, we hope to be kind of a community talking point when it comes to these Nemesis decks. So I'm excited about it. And that's what it is. And Jared, thank you for putting together 3 links in a white page.
Yeah, man, no problem. Easy peasy. Throw an image, 3 links. It's no problem.
Many minutes.
Yeah, many minutes of that. So it'll be, if you just go to www.battle-mallet.com, that'll be the landing page. If you're listening and you want to just type it in straight, it'll be battle-mallet.com/nemesis-decks will be the website. So, but there'll be a link in the show notes. We'll link to it from our social channels as well. So wherever it is that you're following us, listening to us, you'll be able to find that. And then, yeah, as Jason said, if you come up with a good idea for another deck, we'll add it. So, right now there will be 1 link per warband, but we can expand that. I will take the minutes involved in adding another link to the database.
I'll take the minutes and I'll add the link, and then you can take the hours to fix whatever.
Yeah, no. So Trace has editor access to the website. Jason.
That's fair.
That may or may not be on purpose. So anyway, so we're excited about it, and we hope that it helps everyone that listens to engage with their local community, to build up their local community. I think there's a lot of buzz around Gnarlwood. And for anyone that hasn't had the opportunity, that doesn't know about Guerrilla Miniatures Gaming, Ash, who is the host of that YouTube channel, put out a really good video about why he's excited about Gnarlwood. He actually had the opportunity to speak with Dave Sanders, who's the designer of Warhammer Underworlds. And so he talks about talking to Dave and coming up with like the questions that he had around Gnarlwood and stuff. So we'll link to that video in our show notes as well. If you get a chance, he speaks pretty clearly, so you can crank it up to like 1.75 or 2.0 speed if you need to get through it quickly. But it's definitely worth a listen, in my opinion. So and thanks again to Jason for sharing that video with us in our chat group. So I think that's it. I don't think we need to cover anything else before we jump in, right? Good?
No, man.
All right, sweet. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we will discuss the Gnarlspirit pack and the Sons of Velmorn.
Welcome back, and we're going to start this off with a Gnarlspirit pack. They have to be good because they have Gnarl right in their name, right?
Right.
This is where they come from. This is their wood. To go get it. I'm really excited about this warband because it's almost like Godsworn Hunt 2.0. Like, it feels very Godsworn Hunt X. So they even have oaths within their objectives, which I was a huge fan of when Godsworn Hunt had oaths, although maybe not the most effective thing in Godsworn Hunt. But no, really, really cool warband. The models are amazing. Dark Oath, almost Beastmen looking wonderful figures. But they're a 4-fighter warband, and there's a lot on these fighter cards. I feel like I say that a lot. But this one, they have kind of the same feel as the vampires. So like Crimson Court, where they can inspire and uninspire and back and forth again, and their stats change, and they get all kinds of cool abilities depending on what they have and what they don't have. So we're going to start with the Spine Hammer, the real big brawler, because his fighter card has struggle on it, and I think that struggle is probably the most important fighter ability to understand the warband. But his base stats are move 3, 1 block, 4 wounds. He's got the big hammer. It hits on 2, or we roll 2 hammers for 3 damage, knockback 1. His Inspire, just like the rest of the warband, is it is the Inspire step after you removed a spirit counter from this card. Well, the spirit counter is the most important thing, and he has it, and you get a spirit counter through struggle. So struggle is at the start of this fighter's activation. You can give this fighter 1 spirit counter or remove this fighter's spirit counter. So when they start the game, they have no spirit counters. They're just regular old Yumis. And when you activate them, you can either give them a spirit counter or remove the spirit counter if they have one. And what the cool thing is about the spirit counter is it makes them this savage beast It's like they're almost like in druid form, transforming into a big beast of the Gnarlwood, and it gives them benefits. So for this fighter, he has overcome. While this fighter has one or more spirit counters, he gets +1 defense. He is a beast and cannot be inspired. So he goes to 2 block with 2 hammers, 3 damage, knockback 1. He is a beefy guy when you give him that wonderful spirit counter. On his inspired side, if you decide to remove that, so you'll remove the spirit counter at the start of the phase, so he wouldn't inspire right away, but he'll inspire at the end of the phase. He keeps all his same stat lines except his big hammer gains knockback 2 and stagger, and then he has an ability called Beast Breaker. Friendly beasts within 2 hexes of this fighter can hold objectives, and you can reroll 1 dice in the defense roll for beasts. So he becomes a really cool support piece as well if he is inspired.
That's cool. When he's got the spirit counter, and Trace mentioned this before, he's Oberyn from Steelheart's Champions.
And Oberyn hits really hard.
Yeah, it's good. I like him, and the model's amazing.
Like
the model is really cool.
He's got a big hammer.
Yep.
The next fighter is one of the cooler looking models, Crimson Kara. So she's also a brawler. She's move 4 base, so instead of 3, she is a little bit faster. 1 shield, 3 wounds. So, not the full 4, but 3 wounds is still respectable. She has a clawed axes, which is 3 fury, 2 damage. Then she also has Berserker Assault, which is range 1, 4 dice on fury for 1 damage, and then an ability called Unleash. Unleash is Grievous 1 and Scything if this fighter is a beast. So remember, she has struggled just like all the other fighters. So at the start of your activation, you can give her a spirit counter and she instantly gains the beast keyword. That's a pretty impressive attack. A Scything attack with Grievous on 4 dice. Woo! But there's more. She also gains +1 move if she's a beast.
Yeah.
So she goes to 5 move instantly when she gets a spirit counter, with a really, really accurate attack for 1 damage and hoping for that crit. If you decide to remove the spirit counter and she'll inspire in the next inspire step, then the next turn she'd be move 4, 1 shield, 3 health. Her clawed axes stay on 3 fury for 2 damage, but they gain cleave and Grievous 1. So, not too shabby. A Grievous 3 damage fighter, like, it's pretty good on 3 dice. Pretty good. Then it's time for my favorite fighter of the warband. Just call him Predator. Lupan, Long Cut, Jagathra's spiritual successor.
Yeah.
He is a hunter. He is move 4, 1 dodge, 3 wounds, but he has a long cut spear, like 3 range, hitting on 2 hammers, 1 damage, and has the impact rule. So the impact rule is +1 damage when this is made during a charge action. So there we go. I love it. It's one of my favorite things from previous warbands. But he also has an awesome silent knife, which is 3 fury for 2 damage. Again, you can give him the spirit counter. Struggle is on the card. When he is a beast, while this fighter has 1 or more spirit counters +1 move, so 5 move, and counts double support as successes in his attack and defense rolls. He is a beast and cannot be inspired. If you do decide to inspire him, and I recommend you do, this is the first fighter that I think gets significantly better when he's inspired. He's move 4, 2 dodge, 3 wounds. His spear goes to 3 hammers, still has the impact special rule. His knife stays on 3 fury, 2 damage, and gains Grievous 1. And then he gets an ability called Beast Guide. This fighter supports each friendly beast. So if he's inspired, if he's on the board, he's supporting anyone that's in beasts. Just pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's quite supportive. I like it.
It makes Goral's hammer hit better, and Crimson Kira, I mean, yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, it's really, really solid. Last but not least, if you can help me with this first name, because I just can't pronounce it. I just think of Shakira all the time. Sarikar, the Blackwing.
Tim the Enchanter.
He is a level 2 wizard, so this is the leader of the group. Level 2 wizard. Move 4, 2 dodge, 4 wounds. So getting back to that little bit of beef with, we all know how 2 dodge work out. He's got a wild staff, range 2, 2 hammers, 2 damage. And then he does have a Raptor Bolt, which is really cool that he has an on-card magic attack, which is range 3 on focus.
Yes.
On focus.
Yep.
Always got to remember.
That's correct.
1 damage. And then again has the struggle keyword, so you can make him a beast. You can inspire him. Same way as before. If you do give him a spirit counter, while this fighter has 1 or more spirit counters, he has +2 move, is a beast, is flying, and cannot be inspired. So he can attack anywhere he wants to attack.
Yeah.
If he has a spirit counter. If you choose to inspire him, his base stats stay the same: 4, 2 dodge, 4 wounds. His staff gains 1 additional dice, so the staff's hitting on 3 hammers now. And then the Raptor Bolt goes to 2 damage and has cleave.
Oof, so good.
He is an extremely accurate leader. Again, I think I would inspire him if I was a betting man. So that's the 4 fighters. Again, a lot there to digest, and really you'll see as we talk about the cards, this warband has an ebb and flow. You have to understand when you want to just be a fighter, when you want to be an inspired fighter, and when you want to be a beast.
Yep.
It's cool. Any additional thoughts there?
No, I think you got it. And I mean, the models just look incredible. I can't wait to get my hands on them. So, yep, it's good.
Cool. Well, then we'll roll right into objectives. So we have our standard format, pick, kind of our 3 selected objectives that we want in our opening hand. If we had the best thing that we could pick, same with 3 gambits and 3 upgrades. So we'll just start with objectives. Trace, what's an objective you'd love to see in your opening hand?
Savaged.
Oh, you're savaged.
Really want to see savaged.
You want to be savaged? Is that what you said?
I don't want to be savaged.
Oh.
But I would like to see savaged in my hand. So savaged is surge. Score this immediately after a friendly beast's attack action that takes a target out of action. Word on the street is it's pretty easy to make these people beasts, huh?
Yes.
It is.
And word on the street is that they can actually hit pretty hard, right?
Yes.
Seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. Seems pretty good.
I would agree with this statement. The card art for this one is cool too, because it kind of shows what they look like in beast form. They have this kind of red pulsating energy that comes out of them.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that in their card art, so.
Yeah. Jared, what else? What other objectives would you like to see?
So you mentioned the oaths, and I think turn 1, I think Oath of Fortitude is probably a good bet. So this is a hybrid objective. You may reveal this card at the start of your first turn in a round. So turns being player turns within a round. Then return it to your hand. Score this in an end phase if there are 3 or more surviving friendly fighters. So 2 4-wound fighters, 2 3-wound fighters. It's not, I mean, that seems fairly straightforward in turn 1 or round 1. Or there are 1 or more surviving friendly fighters and no friendly fighters were taken out of action in this round. So probably not going to be that one unless you're really cagey. It's worth 1 glory, but if you revealed it, then you gain an additional glory. So it could be worth 2. And I think what can't be undersold here is your ability to bait your opponent into trying to take you out, and then to keep you
have
from
them exactly where you want them.
Yep. Yeah. So they're going to try to keep you from scoring this, which could be fine because you end up taking out 2 or 3 of their fighters. So, and it just plays into that oath. This is one of 4 oaths in the warband as well, and they all allow you to score an additional glory if you reveal them at the start of your first turn.
Yeah, which is key because you can't draw into them and reveal them. You have to have them
right
the first turn in the round to actually get the additional glory. And it's cool just to mention there's 2 surges and 2 end phases. We didn't see the oaths and surges before. So to have 2 surges that could go up to 2 glory is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the last objective that we want to talk about is True Selves. This one I think is really easy to score. Like I had to read it like 5 times because I was like, that can't be that easy, can it? So it's score this in the end phase of each surviving friendly fighter is either inspired or a beast. So you're either inspired or beast.
Yeah. You just have to activate all 4 of your fighters in turn 1.
There you go.
And give them all and make them all beasts. Give them all spirit counters, and boom, you're done.
Yep.
Which is what you want to do anyway if you want to inspire them all.
That's right.
So you need to remove those. So really, like we could be off to 4 glory real quick here with that oath.
That's true.
Which is a really good opening, and plus the kill that we'd have to get for Savage. So we're at 5 glory.
We're at 5 glory. Turn 1's pretty. Ooh. It's a good turn.
It is a good turn. With the accuracy of these guys, I think we're cooking with something. So on to the ploys.
Yep.
Gambit, Jared, what's the first ploy you're going to pick up?
So speaking of accuracy, there's this card, Fierce Competition. So +1 dice to the first attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation. So that sounds pretty good.
Yep.
However, +2 dice instead if that fighter is supported by 1 or more friendly beasts and or inspired fighters. So, got to be a little cagey, I think, in turn 1 to get that support by a beast or an inspired fighter. Well, you won't get it by an inspired fighter. It's very unlikely.
Yeah.
Not in turn 1. But, to get the support set up by a friendly beast might be a little tricky. But +1 dice is always good, especially when you've got people that have Grievous.
Nobody likes a trickly Gnarlwood.
And Lupin.
Yeah, once he's inspired, right? If you have this turn 2, then that's really good.
Very good.
Yep.
Very, very good.
Very +2 dice is crazy. Next one. So the next one I'll just go is In Control. Play this only if there are 1 or more friendly fighters that are not beasts. Push each friendly beast up to 1 hex. So again, like in turn 1, you can play this because if they don't have a spirit counter, that would be something that is not a beast. Mm-hmm. And everyone else that already activated, maybe you're trying to get them out of dodge, move them onto an objective, whatever it may be. We all know we love pushes. And with the new rules, heck, maybe everyone's got a charge token and you're just trying to get them into a better position.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, I like that one too.
Trace, the last one.
It is a vicious blow that we will deal to our enemies, and that is the card that I'm picking. Vicious blow. The first range 1 attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation has Grievous 1 or +1 damage instead if that fighter is a beast and 1 or more other surviving friendly fighters are not beasts. So as long as you, just like the previous card, as long as you use this before you've activated all your people, if you are going to do so, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I mean,
plus damage and plus dice in this deck are pretty prevalent.
I mean, Goral is coming out of the gate hitting for 4 damage with this card.
Yes. One shot in fools.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Get him, big boy. Get him. So on to the upgrades. That's the gambits, and there are some very, very good ones there. But the upgrades, we don't stop with just the ploys. I think the upgrades are just as great. And I'll go first. Mine is Willie Hunter. Or
Wiley.
Hunter.
Who?
Wiley
For everybody
Hunter.
else.
Who's Willie?
Willie. One-eyed Willie. This is the Goonies card. I like it. I'm going to call it that all the time. So Wiley Hunter is an upgrade reaction after this fighter's activation. If this fighter made one or more attack actions, push this fighter 1 hex. This is like all the other push after an attack action cards that we've seen. This really allows you to maximize your attack actions. The fact that your leader has a range 2 attack action, or range 3 magic attack action. He can move around quite easily with this card.
Yeah.
It's good. Trace, what's the next one?
Trophy of Strength. I like damage cards.
Trophy.
Just saying. Trophy of Strength. +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 or range 2 attack actions. Straight up.
Yep.
It's a really good thing. Great strength. However, there's more. Reaction. After this fighter's attack action that takes an enemy fighter out of action, if this card is in your hand, give this upgrade to that friendly fighter. It does not cost any glory points. So if you're doing what this warband wants to do, you get a free upgrade.
Seems worth it.
It's really good.
Yeah, an easy upgrade without spending any glory. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Jared, bring us home. What's the third upgrade?
Yeah, so the last one I think we want to see early is Preternatural Senses. So you can reroll 1 dice in this fighter's defense rolls. I mean, that's going to be good on Sarkar, on an Inspired Lupan, or on a Beast Mode Goral, because they're 2 defense dice. But this card also says, and this fighter ignores the rules for cover hexes while making an attack action. So if you've had somebody, your opponent has said, well, I'm going to try to up my defense despite the stagger, or there's already a cover hex on my board or whatever. Just kidding.
Right.
So no double supports on defense for you. And then if they did delve to turn an objective into a cover hex, now they're staggered and they don't get the defense bonus. So good job.
Good job.
Pretty big.
It's really the reroll defense dice is well worth it, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Good. So, keeping with that theme, Jared, what type of board are you looking for?
Yeah, so you want 4 hexes as close as possible to enemy territory. I mean, this warband is all aggro all day. I think Goral probably goes up front.
You can put
just
Sarkar up there too.
Yeah, just to soak some wounds.
2 dodge.
Lupan's going to be able to hit from afar, but yeah, I mean, you just want to get in their face, do some damage, and go Savage Beast Mode.
Right.
Yep.
One thing we didn't mention in the upgrade deck too is not only do they have +1 damage, but they have +1 wound. So they're one like kind of. They have those 2 3-wound fighters. Well, they could be 4. So
that's true. Yeah, they do have a +1 wound card. Yep.
And you mentioned it. The playstyle is aggro, and I think we're all agreeance there. But I'm going to sit down because this is probably going to be one of my more played warbands here going forward. So Trace, if I'm across the table from you, how are you gonna dismantle this warband? Like, what are you doing to counter me?
Running away. I'm not kidding. No, I think the biggest thing is that you want to try to watch future tokens in your territory and try and keep them in their territory if possible. And taking out Lopan early, trying to get rid of him is big because he's got a big threat range and can do a lot of damage and has a lot of utility to the warband if he's inspired. So just trying to get rid of him to get rid of those supports and stuff is big.
Yep.
Yeah. If you take him out, I'm mad. I'm upset. Love that guy.
I know it's you.
Target numero uno.
You're gonna be as mad when we kill him as you are when we kill Jagathra.
That's right. You did bring up a really good point though. Like, try to keep from playing in your territory, right? So the Gnarlspirit wants to be very aggro and play in enemy territory. So if you give them a reason to stay in their own territory, you'll slow down some of their cards, some of their scoring, some of their ploys, like they have to be in enemy territory for that stuff to kind of synergize. So if you have the opportunity to run across and play in the Gnarlspirit territory, do that. So with all that said, what are we giving this warband as a new player rating?
I like gold.
Yeah, I think it's got to be gold. I think the fighter stat cards are good. Like the fighter cards are good, and then the play style is just straightforward. And the deck, I think the deck functions. So with all of that together,
yeah, I mean, there's the straightforward nature of it. Like, you know exactly what this warband wants to do. It wants to just get in somebody's territory and smash them. It's not complicated. There's not a lot of tricks. The only tricks that I would find that would even remotely push this close to silver is the maintenance and trying to figure out when you pull that spirit counter off to inspire somebody, or when you want to keep the spirit counter on or leave it off completely. So that's the nuance there. So if somebody can take this deck and really master that piece, it'll be really good for people.
Yep.
Awesome. And then if we are going to tweak it up a little bit, talking about my favorite format, Nemesis, what deck do you think we're going to build with at the current
Tooth
state?
and claw all the way.
Yeah.
Really? No?
There's so much in there for beasts. Like, and at least half of your fighters are going to be beasts with this warband. So
There's a lot of just straight damage in Tooth and Claw.
and
if you take Kira with her 4 dice and Grievous
and scything.
and Scything and give her a card that allows her to get just straight +2 damage.
Yeah. Or multiple +1. Yeah. If she can do 3 damage plus Grievous in a scything attack, she could go in and just wreck face.
Just murder people. She's a murder hobo.
She is.
I'm excited about it because, you know, I like dual wielding.
You do like dual wielding miniatures.
Yeah, that's very cool.
I mean, she's to not be tongue in cheek. She's savage. Like,
yeah, she is a savage.
Yeah,
those biting axes, clawed axes.
It's really good. This is scary.
Yep.
You know, the other thing too that is really nice with this being a new season, new box, and another Rivals deck for us to go through is these decks are really starting to get more and more refined. So this one, like, there are still some cards in here that you're like, okay, like it works in the Rivals deck, right? But this warband is going to flow and play just exactly the way it was designed, which is really cool. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're looking at it like a Nemesis format tournament or event. Don't be afraid just to take this Rivals deck.
Yeah.
It'll perform very well into like Nemesis decks.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, good. That's it for this wonderful Gnarlspirit Rival deck review.
I don't know why you got all robotic right there, Jason. That was weird.
It was weird. Doesn't.
Well, how about I take the mic from you, and we'll talk about the Sons of Velmorn. How's that work?
Let's do it.
All right, yeah. So Sons of Velmorn, this is the other warband in the Gnarlwood pack. Their lore is pretty cool. They were humans a long time ago, and they were, settled their kingdom, and they were defending their kingdom in the Gnarlwood, and then they died, and they're like under Nagash's power, and they're still fighting to keep things out of the Gnarlwood, but they're dead. So you have the king, the 3 of his legitimate sons, and then 1 of his illegitimate sons that make up this warband. So it's a 5-fighter warband. King Morlach Velmorn is 3 move, 1 block, 4 wounds. He has a range 1, 2 smash, 2 damage attack with Grievous 1. And the Grievous 1 is going to be a theme here because the Inspire condition is an attack action results in a critical hit if this fighter was the attacker or supported by the attacker. Or supported the attacker. So if there's a critical hit made by a fighter or they were supporting someone that made a critical hit, then they inspire. And King Velmorn has a reaction on his card. It is Deadly Command. After this fighter's activation, give this fighter 1 command counter. While this fighter has one or more command counters, it is supporting each friendly grave guard, and so there are his 3 legitimate sons. Clear those counters at the end of the action phase. So as long as either King Velmorn makes a critical hit or any of his legitimate children make a critical hit after he has a command counter, then he will inspire. So let's run through the grave card real quick. They have the same basic stat line. So they're all 3 move, 1 block, 3 wounds. Same inspire condition.
You don't want to go through what he gets when he inspires.
Oh, that's a good call. That's fine. All right. So when he inspires, he goes to 2 block, and his attack goes to 3 damage. So range 1, 2 smash, 3 damage. It maintains the Grievous.
Yeah.
So
maintains the Grievous.
That's big.
So he could go to 4. Yep. All right. Good call. Feels like it's been a minute. All right. So now to the his sons. So we have Thane 4th and last. So after the 3 move, 1 block, 3 health, he has a great white blade. So this is range 1, 2 fury, 2 damage with a trip on crit, and trip is to stagger the target. And he also has the sibling rivalry reaction. After the final power step of the round, inspire 1 friendly fighter that has this ability. So he and the next 2 fighters, the 2 other Graveguard, have this ability. And so that 2 fury seems not so great in the beginning, but if King Velmorn activates first, then he has a command counter and he counts as supporting. So now that 2 fury attack is a 2 smash attack, which is a lot better. When he inspires, his great white blade goes to 3 fury, still 2 damage with the crit, with the trip on crit, but he also gains a scything attack, so 3 fury for 1 damage with Grievous 1. So he can either hit you pretty hard by himself or come in and do a sweep attack. So the next 2 fighters are Helmar the Hewer, so he's the guy with the axe, and Marshal Falk Velmorn, so he's the guy with the sword and the shield. Both of their attacks are range 1, 2 fury, 1 damage with Grievous 1. So there's the potential for 2 damage. And again, the 2 fury doesn't seem that great from the beginning, but with King Velmorn's ability to support them, it gets a lot better. They both have the sibling rivalry reaction, so you could inspire any one of them in the last power step of the round. And then when they inspire, they both go from from 2 fury to 3 fury. Helmar with the axe gains cleave, and he gains the shield up ability on a crit. So if he has a critical hit, you can give this fighter 1 guard token. And then Marshal Falk, when he is inspired, goes to 3 fury as well. He does not have cleave, but he does gain the shield up ability on a crit as well. So we talked about this, kind of in the pre-show, but I think it's very important to note that the 3 Griblies in this Death Warband are all 3 wounds each, which I think is important. I think it's a big deal, and I think it makes them a little stickier than they would normally be in a 5-fighter Death Warband. And so last and probably least in the eyes of King Velmorn, but definitely not least when it comes to his stat blocks, is Sir Jedrin the Falseborn. So he is move 3, 1 block, 5 wounds. And his great Tomb Blade is range 1, 2 fury, 3 damage. Unfortunately, he does not get the supports from his father when his father has a command counter, but I think I have been the victim of a Widow Katha attack on more than one occasion. And I think both Trace and Jason have been the victim of a Gristlewell or uninspired Ardskull attack on more than one occasion. So, 2 Fury doesn't seem great, but when it hits for 3 damage, it still hits for 3 damage. Yeah. And then when he inspires, he goes from 2 Fury to 2 Smash. And he also gains the Slayer rule. So you can reroll 1 dice in the attack rolls of this fighter's attack actions that target a large fighter. And he also gains Sleepless Sentinel. So while this fighter is adjacent to a friendly fighter, this fighter supports that fighter. So they don't have to be adjacent to the attacker. They simply have to be adjacent to the target or to the fighter when it is an attack action. So between a command counter and Sir Jedrin inspired, your Graveguard could be getting 2 supports on their attacks. So, yeah. So I think a little bit less going on these fighter cards, but I think there's still, there's some nuance here and some flavor beyond just, like 5 beady dudes.
Listen, and the Falseborn is a huge model.
He's so big. He's on like a 40 mil base, so he's on the same base as like your Stormcast Eternals and yeah.
I kind of like the visual that you kind of get from the way that these cards read. You're almost like a little phalanx moving forward, and the commander's in the back, right? So you've got the three Graveguard in the front, and you've got Falseborn in the middle, like just kind of hanging out with them, and then in the rear with the gear is Velmorn, at least not too far behind, but behind the lines. And if you can get, it's cool.
Yeah, that's good. So, with the fighters out of the way, I think it's time that we talk about some objectives. So, again, as usual, these are the objectives that you want in your opening hand. If you can get them, Jason, what do we want first?
Relentless Unity.
Speaking of the phalanx.
I'm just saying.
Surge Hybrid. Score this immediately after an attack action. The target is supported friendly fighter and failed. Ooh, I like that. Or that was made by a supported friendly fighter and succeeded. So again, if you're getting that, your leader, Velmorn, with the command action, can really go off if you make an attack action that was supported and succeeded. Or if you got them all set up and they're protecting each other and your enemy comes in and fails an attack action, give me that glory. It's like a double whammy. You failed your attack and I get a glory.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. That's the ideal scenario for that card, I think.
Yeah.
All right, Trace, what else do we want?
I like Clinical Efficiency. Surge Hybrid. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action that took a target out of action if that attack action dealt precisely enough damage to take the target out of action, or that attack action resulted in a critical hit.
Yeah, it's good.
You've got a nice range of damage characteristics in this warband, so this can be achieved fairly easily. You've got Velmorn with his 2 smash just right out of the gate. He can wall up a small fighter if he needs to. Falseborn has his 3 damage attack that can precisely kill 2 of the fighters in the faction that's in the box with these guys. Just off the cuff.
Yep.
Then the Graveguard can like plink off one point of damage, because this is precise use of force with an additional way to score it.
Yeah.
For those who are veteran players, precise use of force is exactly the first condition. The attack dealt precisely enough damage to take the target out of action.
Yep.
It doesn't say that they have to like one-shot them. It just means if it needed 1 damage to take them out, you take them out.
Yeah.
And then you score this card. It's very good. It was very good then. It's very good now with a bonus.
Yeah. I think the thing that I like about this is I recall scenarios when I was playing, back when precise use of force was a card, and I would have like fighter's ferocity on the fighter, and I would roll that crit when I didn't need it, and I would fail to score precise use of force even though I took the fighter out of action because I did 2 damage when I needed to do 1, or I did 3 damage when I needed to do 2. Well, this negates that. So like Correct. If your crit takes you 1 damage over, you still succeed.
Yes.
Or like if they've got like you crit and you do like 4 damage or something crazy. And they only had 2 wounds. Well, great, you still succeed with this card. So
that's a great
I think
card.
it's good.
I like
it. So, and then I think the last one that you want is an end phase. This is Hereditary Claims. Tools. Score this in end phase if your warband holds 2 or more objectives and 1 or more of those objectives is not in your territory. So that doesn't mean that it has to be in enemy territory. It could be in no man's land as well. So this gives you kind of some passive scoring and the ability to ramp up in the end phase to get those upgrades on going into the next round, and fairly easy to set up as well. All So objectives out of the way. That'll bring us to the gambits. And I think that the first one that we want to see is Imperious Will. Give your leader 1 command counter and 1 guard token. So now you don't even have to activate Velmorn in order to get that command counter to pass those supports around. You can just have him supporting people from the get-go, or supporting people before he activates. Maybe you don't want to activate him first. So that takes care of that one. What else do we want, Jason?
Spike of Terror.
This card is so cool.
So choose 1 enemy fighter within 2 hexes of 1 or more friendly fighters. That fighter's player picks 2. You push the chosen fighter 1 hex, or you stagger the chosen fighter, or you give the chosen fighter 1 move token. Either way, it's not going good for you.
Yeah.
Like, you're either getting sucked in, most likely, I'm staggering you, or I'm giving you a move token and I'm staggering you.
Yeah.
Or, it's just like the fact that we get to do 2 things is really cool.
Yeah. And I think that, so, with Gnarlwood, if you have a move token, you can still make a move action, but you can't charge. And so you could prevent somebody from charging into your back lines.
Yep.
Anything like that. So you're definitely going to be giving your opponents some choices. Yeah.
It's good.
So it is good. And then
it's real good.
What's the last one we're hoping for in that turn 1, Trace?
So one of the things that we've kind of noted about these fighters is that their accuracy is not all that great, right?
Right.
So to kind of insulate against that a little bit, you want Redoubled Fervor. Reaction, play this after a friendly. Graveguard's a failed attack action. When you do, you can remove 1 command counter from your leader. That Graveguard makes 1 attack action. If you remove the command counter, 1 dice plus 1 dice to that attack action until it has been resolved. So you can remove a command counter is the key here. You always get to do the attack action if you fail.
Right.
If you remove the command counter, you get plus 1 dice.
Yeah.
Solid. Really good.
Especially, imagine if it's your last attack in the round.
Yes. Yeah.
You're like, okay, well, I don't need the supports for my other fighters, so let's make that attack again with 3 dice. Yep. So it does negate kind of the Inspire condition, right? Like King Velmorn isn't going to count as supporting you if you do crit on the damage, but that may not matter as much as actually taking the fighter out. So,
well, I mean, but think about it this way, right? If you have your perfect hand, like we just talked about, you've got the one where you get the Imperious Will. You've already got a command counter.
That's true.
You could have 2. Doesn't say you're capped at 1.
That's fair.
So you can burn 1 to do this on 3 and still get supports.
Nice.
So it's very good.
Synergy. I like it.
It's like they planned this to work together. Or something.
It is like they planned it to work together. All right, so that's the gambits. Let's kick it over to upgrades, and Jason, kick us off.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I'll go with Proud Son. You can reroll 1 attack dice in the attack rolls for the fighter's range 1 attack actions, restricted to Graveguard. I got 3 to pick from.
Yep.
And rerolls are always good, especially when I'm fishing for crits.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. So I think the next one that we want to talk about, you got to talk about the +1 damage upgrade. So Heirloom Weapon, +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions. It is restricted to Graveguard. But now that there's that chance for that Graveguard to spike to 3 damage, it gets even better when they're inspired. So, it seems pretty good. So Trace.
So I like this card for a lot of reasons, just because it's very thematic with how this warband is, I think, meant to be played, which is to draw you in and then hit you hard. And the card that I have chosen is Fell Enchantments. Reaction: after an enemy fighter's failed attack action that targeted his fighter, give the attacker 1 curse counter. While the fighter has 1 or more curse counters, that fighter is -1 defense to a minimum of 1, and -1 dice from that fighter's attack actions to a minimum of 1. Clear all curse counters at the end of the phase. So you can, if somebody charges you and fails, you have this reaction to play, and now you hit them a lot easier if they have multiple defense dice.
Yep.
And you're making it even harder. So if there's with the charge actions and being able to activate again with a charge counter, if they do get sassy and want to try and hit you again, as long as they've got everybody else activated, now they're doing it at -1 dice.
Yeah.
So it's solid. I mean, it's not the most versatile card, but it's in the situation that you need it. It's very good.
Yeah. And it might be enough to dissuade somebody from trying to like plink into a fighter.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if, trying to throw a less accurate attack to try to plink into them, it may make them choose a different target or something. So I think it could be good.
It's not Graveguard restricted either. So you could give this to Big Boy and be like, okay, come at me, bro. Like, it works really well on him, I think.
Yeah.
He's fitting that he's actually on the card. So
that's true. Yeah. It makes sense. I like it. All right. So objectives, gambits, and upgrades out of the way. What do we want for boards, Jason?
Yeah, given the fact that they have 3 move, you're going to want to pick something that you can deploy like kind of mid-center of your board. They are an aggro stylish warband, so you want to be able to keep them kind of supporting each other and close, but not so close that you're just getting bopped at the front, right? Like you don't want to spread out where they can't overlap each other with their 3 move.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. That leads right into their play style. So, I mean, a lot of their stuff requires you to have successful attack actions or take fighters out of action. So I think they're an aggro play style, but they are more receptive aggro than the Gnarlspirit. So I think it's an attack back style aggro. So where you bait with something.
They're counterpunch.
Yeah. And then you swarm whatever comes in. Try to stack those supports, try to stack that accuracy where you can. And then, ultimately, especially when they're not inspired, you're largely going to be whittling them down, with a lot of 1 and 2 damage attacks. So I don't know. I like these guys. I don't know how good they're going to be. I want to think they're going to be good. I'm going to try them for a little while. So if I'm doing that, Jason, what's your counterpunch to my counterpunch plan?
I mean, I'm going to try to take down your leader.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty standard when you're going against any warband, but specifically with this warband in particular is if I take down your leader, there's some res cards that can really make this warband kind of shine. I think that when you first start playing against them or playing with them, people are going to think that your leader and Falseborn are going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And it really comes down to the Graveguard and getting one Graveguard kind of souped up. And if your leader's still alive, that Graveguard will be able to be brought back and do more and more work. Because remember, you don't uninspire when you go out of action, right?
Right.
So, and then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm really going to try to hinder you with the 3 move. Like I'm going to try to spread you wide and attack both sides of the board. So
right.
You can't gain those additional attacks, especially supported attacks. Because good Lord, you get through a critical hit on a supported attack, you're inspiring 2 fighters, and it's not fun for me.
No. Nope. It's not.
Or more, depending on where
you're
at.
Yeah, like if Velmorn's got a command counter and then you've got another support coming in, like you could inspire 3 fighters off of 1 critical hit. So it could be really good. And then you're guaranteed to inspire one of the brothers at the end of the round. Mm-hmm. So, all right. New player rating, Trace. What do we think?
It's silver.
Yeah.
It's got potential, but it's going to take you a while. It's going to take you some reps to get there, I think. And they're very dice dependent. There's a lot of ways to try and insulate for the dice, but they're still a dice-dependent warband just by the nature of their Inspire condition. And they become, I'm not going to say like significantly better, but they want to inspire.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the nuts and bolts of it, the bones of it, if you will.
Ooh. Yeah. I like it. All right. And then I think from a Nemesis standpoint, we're talking about critical hits. We're talking about support. You want more dice than what they have on their fighter cards. And I think the best choice for that right now is the Illusory Might. There are so many 3 dice cards in that deck that give you the opportunity to inspire if the attacker, if not multiple fighters. Plus, some of the other objectives in there are kind of helpful as far as holding being on feature tokens, near feature tokens. You got a good wound spread, so you could hold 3, 4, or 5 for where it matters.
I mean, just the spear alone is good.
Yeah,
in this warband.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you got the darts, which are 3 dice. You got the fists, which are 3 dice.
Yeah.
It's good.
Just anything that gives you the chance to have some range so that you can have somebody that's not immediately in base to base with somebody else that can make attacks and still get supports. It's lots of opportunities to do that too.
Yep. Oh, I like it. Cool. So yeah, well that wraps up the warbands from Gnarlwood. So we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll cover the new Rivals decks from the Gnarlwood box.
And we are back. So with this box, you now get these 2 Rivals decks in addition to the 2 Rivals decks with warbands. So this is the first box that's like this. In line with the Nemesis format, and just continuing to have these available Rivals decks. So we're going to go through these now. The first of them is a deck called Daring Delvers, and this introduces a new thing with these particular Rivals decks called a plot card. The plot card has like unique conditions to help you score the different objectives and stuff like that in these decks. So this plot card says, if you include 1 or more plot cards in your decks that bear the Daring Delver symbol, show this card to your opponent in the Reveal Your Warband step, and use these rules in the game. Your exploration count starts at 0. Increase your exploration count by 1. When you place a feature token during the round, at the end of the action phase, for each friendly fighter that is on a feature token that is not in your territory, at the end of the action phase, for each surviving friendly explorer that is not in your territory, and then also you decrease your exploration count by 1 to a minimum of 0. At the end of the round, for each enemy fighter that is on a feature token that is in your territory. So what you're getting from this is that you want to be in enemy territory with your fighters. You want to be on objectives with your fighters. You want to have explorer upgrades on your fighters to get your count up. And that's how you score a lot of these cards in this deck. So with that, let's kick it off with Sir Jason's favorite of these particular objectives to score, which is what, Jason?
Brave the Root Maze. And I totally didn't have the deck pulled up because I am a ninny. Wow. It's bad.
I'll read it and you can talk about it.
I got it. Brave
Okay, you got
Maze,
it.
Surge. Score this immediately after an activation if 3 or more friendly fighters are each in a cover hex, lethal hex, or a feature token for 1 glory. We've seen these before. 3 fighters standing on a feature token is not that difficult to do. It is only for 1 glory, but the nice thing is all the other hexes count. So you could be in a cover hex, it could be in a lethal hex, or it could be on a feature token that's either one of those, right? So I really, really like that card. I think it's fitting, especially with a lot of the warbands that you want to play with this deck. It's an easy include.
Yeah. And the fact that there are cards in this deck that allow you to place available feature tokens.
Yes.
So you can get more feature tokens on the board than there are when they started, or if somebody blows them up and removes them, you can put them back.
Yep, it's really
I like
good. So this card is sneaky good, and it's called Stealthy Advance. Surge, duel, score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action if that fighter was in a cover hex or a lethal hex or on a feature token when it made that attack action, and that fighter was not in your territory when it made that attack action. So we just read our plot card. These are all things you want to do anyway.
Yep.
So, and then the fact that you don't have to succeed with the attack action, and it just has to be, it's just positional. As long as you get to control that. Things that you can control in this game 100% are great. So this is super easy. Love it.
Yep.
Jared, what's your favorite?
Yeah, so I like Cautious Venture. So this is a duel. Score this in an end phase if 2 or more surviving friendly fighters are in enemy territory. You want to be doing that anyway. And your exploration count is 3 or more. It's in the end phase, so it's after the action phase. If you have 2 or more surviving friendly fighters in enemy territory and both of them are explorers, well, that's 2 on your explorer count. If they're on feature tokens in enemy territory, that's 2 on your explorer count. So you just need 1 more. And it's for 2 glory. So
yep,
that's pretty good in phase.
Solid.
Should be fairly easy to set up turn 1.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's fairly easy to control. You just have to either bide your time and get in there a little later, or have some sticky fighters that can get in there and actually survive a couple of hits early. So we'll move on to gambits. Jared, why don't you tell us your favorite to start since you are on a roll?
Yeah, so I like them quick roots.
Yeah? Tell us about them quick roots.
Yeah, so this is a trap card reaction. Play this after an enemy fighter's activation. If that fighter has 1 or more move and or charge tokens, deal 1 damage to that fighter.
That seems good.
That's a good one.
That seems really good.
Also, it's got my lady on it.
She's trapped.
Yilthari is, I think, trapped. I don't think she's doing the trapping, unfortunately.
She's definitely getting wounded so she can heal to inspire.
There we go. That's it. Perfect.
It's all part of the plan.
All just as
Zinch is pleased.
Yeah. But I mean, just playing damage is nice, and the fact that it's after an enemy's fighter's activation, like you don't have to. There's no range restriction. Oh, you moved or charged, take a damage.
Yeah, it's an effortless ploy.
It's so good.
It's really, really good, and it can set you up to pick off a fighter, or it can take out a fighter who's got 1 wound remaining or whatever. It's really good. Jason, how about you? What you like?
I'm going to go with significant find, and only because Jared talked about his objective needing to be an exploration count of 3. This card is super easy to help you get something. So it is pick 1, place 1 available feature token in an empty hex, 2 or more hexes from each fighter, or increase your exploration count by 1 if 1 or more surviving friendly explorers are not in your territory. So you're going to do this. So it doesn't say anything about placing a feature token on an edge hex, so you can put it there. It just has to be 2 hexes away from a fighter. And as soon as you do that, you automatically are going to score or add 1 to your exploration count at the end of the turn. So given the way this deck works, you need this to increase that count. So I like it.
Yeah, it's a good one. And to continue with that theme of cards that you need to try and get your exploration count and score the objectives in this deck, I like Temporary Haven. Pick 1, place 1 available feature token in a hex occupied by a friendly fighter not in your territory, or increase your exploration count by 1 if 1 or more friendly fighters are each on a feature token not in your territory. Again, all things you're going to want to do. You're going to place a feature token. You want to increase your exploration count if you've got somebody that's already on one. These are all things you want to do.
We're at 2 just for cards.
Yeah. Yep. So upgrades. I'll go first on this one because I think this one's just really good. And that is Dowsing Limb. This fighter is an explorer. Reaction. After this fighter's activation, scatter 2 from this fighter's hex and push this fighter up to 2 hexes along the chain. It says nothing about an attack. It says nothing about anything like that. This is straight up I'm not going to say a better, but this is on par with Duelist Speed, which broke a lot of the game before. Very, very good. Being able to position yourself, even if it is random, you don't have to move them. And it's a reaction you can just take. So, and with the reaction windows being what they are now, you're always going to have the option to do this. Super good. I don't know if you can follow that one because it's so good. Jared, what do you think is the best one after this one?
Yeah, so I like Gifted Sight. So this is it has the mutation keyword, so that may come into play later. We don't know. This fighter is an explorer, right? You want fighters that are explorers anyway. Blocked hexes do not block line of sight for this fighter. So that's nice. And then reaction after this friendly fighter's attack action that takes an enemy fighter out of action. If this card is in your hand, give this upgrade to that friendly fighter. This does not cost any glory points. So you already get to ignore blocked hexes. You're already an explorer, but if you take somebody out of action, then you get to put this on for free. So, it's doing what the deck wants to do. And then I think that there are a lot of things about this deck that lend itself towards ranged fighters anyway. And then if you can now get around blocked hexes and still be able to attack, I think it's just all the better.
Some good stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Give me that explorer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jason, what do you think?
I think I'm going to plunder some knowledge.
That's fair.
What I think I'm going to do.
Yeah,
I really like
fair.
this card. I think this card is one of the best in the deck. So it is an upgrade reaction after this fighter's activation, in which its attack action took an adjacent target out of action. Pick one. Increase your exploration count by 2,
Ooh.
or draw 2 power cards. It's like really good choice. I get 2 additional power cards, or I can go up by 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. This card leans into the more aggro part of this deck. This deck is not strictly just like hold objectives. This deck has got some nice little nuggets like this for those aggro warbands that may want to use it. Card draw is always good.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can take a target out of action and then you have a choice of, there's cards in this deck that require your exploration count to be a certain number. One of those is 3 glory just for having 10 exploration points.
And it's a surge.
So like if you're at 2 and you kill a fighter, and then you just like, okay, I'm going to increase my exploration count by 2. And now you basically scored 4 glory off of 1 kill, which is nuts. That's not going to happen all that often, but I think this card really helps to get into that, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Boards. Jared, what do you think about boards?
Yeah, so I think the nature of this deck really means that you get a lot of flexibility in the boards that you choose. So you're probably going to lend yourself towards whatever it is that the warband you're using wants. So if you're playing a more kind of passive or reactive warband, then you could pick a board that has hexes in the midline. If you're playing more aggressive, then you could pick a board that has things up front. One thing that you do want to note is that if you pick cards that have like cover hexes and then that's going to help as you're trying to be on specific types of hexes. You do want to edge towards enemy territory because a lot of your objectives require you to be in enemy territory, and the exploration count requires that. And then as far as boards and feature token placement goes, you want to place or force as many feature tokens into enemy territory and no man's land as you can. And then anything that ends up in your territory, you want it to be hard for your opponent to get to, or like right on the line so that you can get them off of it.
Yep. So what are we thinking for play style with this, Jason?
Yeah, I think Jared kind of hit a little bit. It's really a flex deck, and it's flex into enemy territory. So again, it's going to be kind of dictated a lot by the warband that you choose to play with this, or that you choose to build with this. But in the end, the nice design. What I really, really like about the deck is the design is you can't just sit back in your territory. Like, you have to get into enemy territory to kind of get everything out of the deck. So it is flex into enemy territory.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. So for new player rating, I think it's a silver. Because the deck does function well within what the plot card wants you to do. But it's another thing, it's another bean to keep track of for a newer player. So it's a little harder. As somebody who's just jumping into the game, you may not want to jump into this deck first with one of the warbands that's in the box, because it requires a level of accounting too, which can be a little bit much when you're just trying to learn the game. So yeah, I think it's a silver. So let's talk about something that this is kind of new too, like we've done in some of the other Rivals decks that have just been raw. What warbands do we think are good with this deck?
So I think immediately of the Farstriders. So with the push to be in enemy territory and on feature tokens in enemy territory and have explorers in enemy territory. I mean, Farstriders want to be there anyway, and this gives them a full Rivals deck to play with. Mm-hmm. And they've got a lot of good tools on their fighter cards anyway. For reasonable attacks, good stat lines, and then doing what this deck wants to do, getting them inspired makes them all the better. So that's my first thought. Never mind the fact that I played with Farstriders for a long time.
I see your Stormcast warband, and I raise you another one, and that is Stormsire's Cursebreakers, because I feel like they play really well with these cards. Just because they're tough. They don't go to 2 shields on their inspired side, except for Stormsire.
Yeah.
But they have 4 wounds each, and with some of the ranged upgrades that are in this deck too, you can have 2 potential turrets just kind of in enemy territory, just plinking away at people while they're sitting on objectives or feature tokens or cover hexes or whatever. Yeah. So I like that one a lot. Jason, do you have a pick for these? What you think might work well?
I think there's a number of warbands that will work well with it. I think the deck is really well constructed from objectives through what the upgrades and gamuts are supporting those objectives to do. I really like it because it has a lot of plink damage in it. So
yeah, it does.
One warband that I wouldn't say like I would fully replace the Rivals deck, but one that I really like to build a Nemesis would be Dread Pageant with this. I think Dread Pageant already want to sit on objectives as it is, given their own deck, and the fact that I can do this, kind of accentuate and amplify that through this deck is really cool. Plus with the plink damage, there's just a lot of little nuance in here. I think those 2 decks pair really well together.
Yeah. And you brought up Nemesis, and I'm going to drop this one. It's another 3-fighter warband that I played for a long time. Speaking of plink damage and being on objectives in enemy territory, I think this is great for Wormspat too, and really gives them an honest chance to play, in the Nemesis format, where their Rivals deck, their warband specific cards, just don't give them a lot of love. It's just not a modern deck. But if you pair it with this one, I think there is a lot of love to be had there.
So from the Nemesis format, I think Kagra's Ravagers loves this deck.
Oh, that is a good choice.
They want to be on feature tokens anyway. And with the way that a lot of these, now that objectives are actually face up this season, they can desecrate, flip it over, and still count it. I mean, it doesn't say anything about them having to hold an objective. It just says be on a feature token. So I think there's just a lot that they can gain from this, because some of their cards are not the easiest to score just out of the box. So supplementing some of those harder to score cards in their actual rivals deck with some of these, in addition to having some range options in there for them, and then also, just some very easy things that synergize with what they want to do anyway, like Stealthy Advance is super good. Super good. So I think that wraps up this particular Rivals deck. And now we're going to get into the next one, which is Tooth and Claw. And I'm just going to keep going because I'm having fun. So the Tooth and Claw deck also has a plot card. The plot card for this one reads, if you include one or more cards from this blah, 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 with Tooth and Claw symbol, just like the previous one, it's just got the blurb at the top. Reveal this in your warband step. Use these rules in your game. At the start of the friendly fighter's activation, you can stagger that fighter. A fighter in any warband is savage while any of the following rules are true. That fighter has one or more charge tokens. That fighter is staggered. That fighter has 2 or more wound counters. So just from this alone, I think you're getting the picture that you want to be in there and mixing it up with this warband, or with this particular Rivals deck. So with that being said, let's get into some of the savage objectives that they have. Jason, what is your first pick if you're sitting here in round 1? What first pick do you want for your objectives?
I'm just going to embrace it. I'm going to have embraced savagery. I'm going to score this as a surge, score immediately after an activation of each surviving friendly fighter is savage. I'm just going to take it. I'm going to charge all day long. Just keep charging. Charge.
Yep. Well, and then also, you have the option at the start of a friendly fighter's activation, you can just stagger your fighter too. So like if you have somebody that has something that they can trigger when they're staggered for whatever reason, they can just stagger themselves. It's cool. Not sure why you would do that, but you have the option to do so. Jared, what is your pick from the objectives for the first time?
Yeah, so Jason is going to embrace his savagery. I really aspire to be a paragon of ferocity. So this is a surge hybrid. Score this immediately after a savage friendly fighter's attack action takes the target out of action if that friendly fighter is in enemy territory or that the target was an enemy leader. So this is advancing strike for anyone that has been playing for a long time. Or assassination. Wasn't that a card? You can get a glory for take. Yeah,
it was 2.
Oh, that was savage something duel, right?
Victorious duel is what I'm
Victorious duel, yeah. 2 glory for a leader taking out a leader. But anyway, we digress. No, it's good. It's great. I think everything else in the deck lends you to being in enemy territory anyway. So, and you want to be fighting and attacking and taking enemies out of action. So,
yep.
To clarify too, because we didn't talk about it, the fighter has 1 or more charge tokens. You still get the charge token at the end of the move action, right? So if you're charging,
yes, yep, so you are a savage fighter
before I attack.
Before the attack actions, that is correct. Yep.
So in theme with what we've talked about so far, I'm picking an end phase, which is titled Move or Die. Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter has 1 or more move and or charge tokens. We've already established we're going to be charging all day with this warband.
Truth.
And if somebody dies, you don't care.
Nope.
Because it's just as long as you've charged with everybody or you've moved with everybody, you're going to score this card at the end of the round.
Yep.
So super duper good, super duper easy. And I like that it does not hem you into just charge actions if you don't want to.
Right.
It's got a lot of it's versatile, which I like. Let's move on to gambits. Jared, what is your first pick for our gambit pool here?
All right, so I got to call out a push card, and so this is call to heal. Choose one beast or savage or one savage fighter. Note that it doesn't say friendly. Push the chosen fighter 1 hex or up to 4 hexes if it is a friendly fighter, so it is adjacent to a friendly fighter. So you're pulling an opponent beast or savage fighter in, or you're pushing a friendly savage or fighter or beast up. So
it's good.
Yep. It's changing the board state and the power step. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Distraction is back.
I know we got to stop saying distraction though, because we could have new listeners. They're gonna be like, distraction. What is distraction?
Call to heal.
Yeah.
Pushing an enemy fighter. It's a big deal.
So I'll go next, and I will call out Dark Command because this card is ridiculous. Choose 1 beast or 1 savage fighter. Deal 1 damage to 1 enemy fighter adjacent to the chosen fighter. Note that it does not say friendly savage.
Nope.
Or friendly beast.
Nope.
So you can just plink somebody. It's so good. I love it. It can be any fighter on the board, and that's really versatile. You've done just enough damage to make one of those silly Stormcast Eternals from Zandire's True Seekers vulnerable for them to score one of their stupid vulnerable cards, and then you're just like, nope, you can't do that. Boom, done. Like, just lots of fun versatility with that. Jason, what is your pick from the Gambit pool in this card deck?
I'm gonna take a domain. I'll take Predatory Fog. After each fighter's activation, stagger that fighter unless that fighter made 1 or more range 1 or 2 attack actions during that activation. This effect persists until the end of the round or until another domain gambit is played. I really like it because I always want to be charging. So if you just want to sit back and play your game, you're going to get staggered, and then I'm going to come in and charge.
Yep. And now you're savage.
Yep.
Because you're staggered.
Yep.
Good stuff. I like it.
It's pretty gnarly. All right, so upgrades. Jason, why don't you kick us off with the first upgrade of this pack?
The first and the only. I'm gonna go with Brutal Transformation. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. So you cannot give this to a leader or a large fighter. This fighter is a beast, plus 2 damage to this fighter's range 1 attack action. This fighter cannot make super actions. So there's a lot to unpack in this card, but really you just can no longer make charges or scything attacks, but plus 2 damage. We haven't seen that in a very long time. I like it. I love it. I want more of it.
Yeah.
Let me just get some call to heal and plus 2 damage and go to work.
Yep. That's good.
Yeah. 2 damage, even if you can't make super actions, as long as you've got a way to push yourself around the board.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. I love the card art is Wallop de Skull, who is clearly hulking out.
Oh yeah. He's definitely looks like the Hulk.
Yeah.
So Jared, what is your first pick from these?
So Jason took the +2 damage upgrade, so I'm just going to take the measly +1 damage upgrade. So this is Feral Instincts. This fighter is a beast. +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 attack actions. However, there's a caveat here. When activated, this fighter must make an attack action if it can. Otherwise, it must make a charge action if it can. Otherwise, it must make a move action that ends closer to the nearest enemy fighter. If it cannot make any of these actions, it cannot be activated. So this is like the forced aggro card, but it's +1 damage. So hard to go wrong.
That's what you want to be doing anyway.
Right?
You want to be charging or moving or doing some other stuff.
Or
like
attacking.
That. Yeah. I mean, I don't see any downside with this card.
No, not with this deck.
So the card that I will go first with is Gifted Ferocity. This is a mutation. There's been a lot of those in the past 2 decks we've talked about. And they all seem to be pretty good so far. +1 dice to this fighter's range 1 attack actions. Straight up +1 dice card.
Yep.
Reaction. After a fighter's attack action that takes an enemy fighter out of action, if this card is in your hand, give this upgrade to that fighter. It does not cost any glory points. Leaning into what you want to do anyway. And since you can attack after a charge in this edition, there's still benefit to you having a +1 dice after you kill a fool. I like it. So I did want to touch on one additional card, and this goes in theme with the card that Jason also mentioned, which is he talked about Brutal Transformation, but this one is called Feral Alteration. You cannot give this to a large fighter. This fighter is a beast. +1 move, +1 wounds. This fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions have knockback 1. There's a key point in this card that can really jack you up if you're not careful because of one of the new core rules that's in this edition. Jason, why don't you refresh us on what that core rule is as far as I can do it. It's fine. So large fighters.
I wanted to read it, right? So
okay, you can read it.
Right out of the
straight up rule.
Somewhere in this wonderful. It's lost. Here it is. While large is not a trait, it works similar in this way. While a fighter has a wound characteristic of 5 or more, including all modifiers, are referred to as a large fighter. If a fighter becomes large during a battle, break each of their upgrades that cannot be given to a large fighter.
So that being said, you have to be really careful with this, because if you stick this on a 4 wound fighter, you're just going to kill it.
Yeah.
So this card is only really good on a fighter that has 3 wounds or less.
Yes.
And it leans into a lot of what 3 wound fighters usually are, which is faster and, whatever. Like, I just think it's a really great card, but you have to be aware that if you put this on somebody with 4 wounds or more, they don't start even if they don't start large, you will make them large, and then this upgrade will be broken.
Yep.
And if you further put Brutal Transformation on this fighter, thinking you're going to get some sneakiness with it on a 4 wound fighter to start, and then you put this upgrade on it after, you've now broken both of them.
Yeah.
Just things to be aware of when you're playing this deck.
Yeah. It's a good shout.
Yeah. So boards. We want 3 hexes across the board all day, like 3 hexes in the front, as close as you can get, as aggro as you can get.
Yes.
Full stop.
Yep.
Play style, aggro.
Yes.
We've covered that. You want to be in people's faces all day, every day, smashing stuff, moving, charging. This deck wants to.
Yep.
New player rating. It is gold. It is the goldest of golds.
Yeah. It's so straightforward for new players. Like, it's not funny.
The only thing that can catch people out is what we just talked about, which is the large fighter shenanigans. So as long as you have that in the back of your mind and say, oh, I can't give this to a 4-wound fighter because it'll make it a large fighter and I'll break something else on it potentially. Yeah. As long as you can keep that straight, this deck is solid. Like I would put this deck pretty much on any warband for the most part. Yeah. And be like, this is going to be a fun new way for me to play this warband. Yes. And I would have fun, or I would be really good with it. Like, just think about Mollog with this deck. Yeah. You've now transformed some of these little Griblies into freaking damage machines. And now Mollog is not the only threat on the board. Yeah, brutal transformation onto the Stalag Squid. It's crazy good.
Just bite someone next to you.
For 4 damage.
For 4 damage. Ow. Like... It's hilarious. Like it opens up a lot of new opportunities for decks that weren't traditionally full stop aggro to play more full stop aggro. Even skeletons, like skeletons being able to push around the board. Yeah. Or the chain rasps. Chain rasps being able to push around the board. Like it just gives you lots of opportunities to play this deck. Yeah. Are there any other warbands that we think of that could benefit from this? What about Nemesis from a Nemesis standpoint? What do you think would be fun from a Nemesis point of view?
So I think the most obvious is Gnarlspirit, right? You want to be beasts anyway. Yeah. Like the Gnarlspirit deck is really good, and I think it has a strong play. But I think that there's probably some subtleties, but in synergies between these two decks. Mm-hmm. That are like only going to come to fruition the more people play Nemesis. So that I'm going to call that one out first. But the other one that I want to call out is a warband that already has a ton of beasts, and that's the Exile Dead. Yep. Because they have good ways to move fighters around to get fighters in position. So like you could put a brutal transformation onto one of your conductive minions, and now suddenly they're doing a lot of damage.
Old Coil becomes a little bit more scary.
Yeah, right. Coil for 4 damage, or any of the other ones hitting for 3 is not nothing, or 4 if they're inspired and the target is staggered. Yep. Which Predatory Fog could help with that.
Yep. Jason, what do you think?
I didn't really process this when we were going through the pre-show, or really the other day when I was building decks, but I also really like this deck for the Velmorn too, right?
Yes.
There's a way to get support in here. There's a weapon upgrade. There's move upgrades. There's wound upgrades. Like I think this complements their playstyle pretty well.
Yeah, I like it.
That one.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that too.
I also will go all the way back to Reavers.
Right? Oh, yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah, Reavers is big.
They don't have quite the movement shenanigans to really take advantage of brutal transformation, but you just don't put that one in there, right? You just take the other good stuff: feral alteration, gifted vitality, gifted ferocity.
Yep. Yeah. I actually chose Magors for this.
Oh, that's a good shout.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the ones that I used when we were kind of going through some of the ideas of these decks. It makes Riptooth freaking scary.
Oh, that's true.
Really scary.
Yeah.
And it makes some of the other fighters that don't have a lot of damage in there also pretty scary too. So it makes an already like fighty warband who already wants to hit you to inspire themselves just hit harder. So that was kind of my pick for them for this particular deck. But I think that kind of sums it up for as far as all the decks that are in the Gnarlwood box.
Yep.
Do you guys have any further thoughts? I think that we did have one other card that we wanted to talk about just from a cool factor standpoint in this deck, which was the card that set the move characteristic of folks.
Oh no, that's back up. We missed it.
Oh, that is in the previous deck, isn't it?
Yeah, so in the Daring Delvers deck, there's the Conqueror's Circlet, It's an upgrade, limited to a leader, restricted to a leader. It's +1 move. Each other friendly fighter's move characteristic is equal to this fighter's move characteristic. So it's essentially a +1 move across the board for your fighter if all of your fighters have the same move characteristic. But if your leader is faster, so I'm thinking like Farstriders, right? He inspires to move 4. Iron Soul's Condemners, Iron Soul inspires to move 4, right? Mm-hmm. So there's 2 fighters there. So now all of your fighters are move 5. Skate's Wild Hunt, all of your fighters are now move 6.
It's pretty big.
It's good.
It's really good. It was that one, and then we had one for this deck too, and it was the one that I picked out before we were starting to record it, and that was Gore Swamp. So Gore Swamp is a domain card. It is a gambit +1 move to Khorne fighters. There are now 3 Khorne warbands in this game.
Yep.
Each other fighter has a move characteristic of 2, while that fighter is making a move action if it is not part of a super action. +1 move to Khorne fighters.
Yeah.
And everybody else is move 2.
Unless they're charging.
Yeah,
that's like forcing people to charge or really hindering their movement.
Correct. Which makes them savage.
Yep.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. I like it.
And as somebody who likes to play Khorne warbands, it's
you might as well, right?
It went into the aforementioned Magor's deck because they're not the fastest.
No.
But they're faster now.
That's right.
So just lots of cool little nuggets like that hidden in these cards. Because that was a surprise to me when I was reading through it. I was like, wait, they're calling out the Khorne keyword. Hold on a second.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's really, really neat. Solid decks. They should be fun in both Rivals and Nemesis format. But
I think these 2 decks for me kind of like really hit the note that you could play them with any warband.
Yes.
In last season, like we didn't really see that. Like the decks were cool, like they did function a little bit by themselves, but you really had to think about what warband you were going to use for these standalone Rivals decks. These 2 are obviously going to have their better warbands, but I do think that they fully function by themselves. And again, in the Nemesis thing, they just really complement well. And then when you're talking specifically about the warbands that are in the box, like you really have 3 different ways to play the warband. Mm-hmm. And then if you bring in Nemesis, it's 5 different ways to try. Like it's just really, really cool.
Yeah.
How this box builds on itself.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, there are a lot of iterations in like 2 people playing out of one box where they're not going to have the exact same experience.
Yeah.
Every time they play, which is really cool.
It's very cool. So with that being said, I think we'll take a break for a second and then we'll come back and finish out the show.
And we're back, and that wraps us up for the 45th episode of the Battle Mallet podcast. So for the Needful, if you haven't already, please find us on the socials. Give us a follow, give us a like, give us a shout, leave a comment. We are Battle Mallet 1 on Twitter, Battle Mallet Podcast on Facebook, Battle Mallet PCast on Instagram. And we have a website now, so not just limited to the blog and the podcast subdomain. So battle-mallet.com will be your one-stop shop for everything Battle Mallet related. We have a Discord, so join that. And then just to shout it out again, we do have that Nemesis deck library on our website that you can check out. It is a starting point for every warband in the game with the Nemesis deck. So, and as Jason mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, we're focusing on ease of entry for every player. So we only used those Nemesis decks that you can purchase separately. So you don't have to do the rat race of the old championship format where you have to buy multiple boxes to build your deck. So I think that's it. All of the links for the decks will be to underworldsdb.com, which is our deck builder of choice. So thanks to Mkrat on Discord, as he is known. for building and maintaining that site and allowing everyone to use it for free, which is awesome. It's a lot of work that goes into that. So just an excellent service. If it's not your favorite, there are options to export it to your favorite deck builder. So, use it as needed. I think that's it. So for the Battle Mallet podcast, we are three dads who are pumpkins slowly turning into jack-o'-lanterns as we approach Halloween. This is Jared signing out.
This is Trey signing out.
I'm Jason Table New Murray. Get the hell out of here.
Peace.
Go Bills.
The Battle Mallet podcast is protected under the Creative Commons license. If you have further questions as to its use, you can find more information via links on podcast.battle-mallet.com. Music by Anno Domini Beats.
Jenny doesn't like my quick roots.